Let's revisit your contribution to this conference.
Oh, my contribution is I wrote a paper specifically for this conference, and I tried to argue that we could still have the idea of natural rights in our society, even if we detached it from the idea of God by using economics and social science as a way of finding out what those rights are. And the way I do that is I ask, why do we have rights? And we learn from history that rights are solutions to problems of conflict in society. So people get into conflicting problems like over property, and then they develop law and rules and conventions and norms, and those, because they work to help create peace, become what I want to call natural rights. They're natural because they arise from people interacting. They don't require a dictator, they don't require God, they don't require government. They emerge spontaneously, and that's why we use the word nature, natural rights. So, and why am I doing this at a conference which is all about philosophy? Because I think I'm correct. Most moral philosophers would argue that you have to have peace, before you can have the conditions for moral behavior. And so economists have something to teach philosophers about how to get peace, and the way you get peace, P-E-A-C-E, peace. Peace are hard with the machine. The way you get peace is you have to have norms and conventions and what I've been calling factual natural rights. Well, somebody mentioned one of my favorite economists, Adam Smith, and that person described his theories incorrectly, so that got me very upset, because Adam Smith is a favorite of both philosophers as well as economists. Adam Smith lived in the 18th century. He was a professor of moral philosophy, and he wrote several books and gave many lectures. And so I believe that every philosopher at this conference has a duty to read him slowly and carefully. And so when I heard one of my colleagues describe Adam Smith incorrectly, I got very upset and very emotional. And that professor agreed that they want to identify the professor, that he or she would take another look. Or let's talk about where I get most emotional or hot under the collar. Many philosophers have the wrong impression of what economists do. And so what I try to do is I try to represent the field of economics and try to show them that economics is really much different than what they may have been taught in college, or what the impression they may have received by reading some economists rather than other economists. And I have been very successful. We all agree that sometimes people have a caricature of what economics is all about. You know, some people call it the dismal science, but the reason it's been called the dismal science is because economists like John Stuart Mill have opposed slavery and wanted to liberate people. In the case of John Stuart Mill, he wanted to liberate the black people in the West Indies from the British yoke. And very prominent English professors and philosophers got very angry. They said, if you let the slaves go, they're gonna come over to England and take away all the jobs. And so you guys are dismal, and that's why we're called the dismal science. I like that label if it means people who fight for the dignity and the autonomy of individuals. Because again, if you're interested in moral philosophy, you gotta have individuals who are autonomous, free, and living in peace. So that's been my theme